the draft. We were talking during the break a little bit. Richard probably really would have liked to have seen a divination or two or some way to offset that card disadvantage from the dispersers you were talking about.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of his draft was kind of unlucky. He opened some and got past some really powerful cards, and then those cards turned out to be in colors that were not the colors that were open.
All right, well, let's get a look at what Max Mick is doing in this seat. And I see a card that I have lost to a ton on Magic Online in draft leagues. Skyrider Patrol. That card has just destroyed me, even in decks that are just splashing it. But Meteor Golem is the card that Max Mick has really to the front of the pack, and seems to be showing a preference for that colorless card versus, committing to 2 colors very early on here for the Skyrider Patrol.
Yeah, and Skyrider Patrol, I do believe, is a better card in this draft format. The thing is, Meteor Golem, it's colorless. He knows that as long as he's not some hyper aggro 15, 16 land deck, that card's making his 40.
Again, you see, we've talked about the idea like with Macabre Waltz or a Trusty Pack Beast or all sorts of different ways you have to return that card. Rise from the Grave is a card we see in there. We may also see why there were no divinations getting their way over to Richard Tan, as the Skyrider Patrol is going to have gotten snapped up somewhere in between those 2 players. And if Max Mick does not take this divination here, that's also going to have gotten snapped up before it makes its way over to Richard Tan. So, you talked a little bit about how we didn't see a lot of blue cards coming his way in that first pack, and that may be why Rise from the Grave is the second pick there for Max Mick. He's like, if 1 Meteor Golem's good, 2 Meteor Golems is better.
Yeah. And who knows? You can even Tormenting Voice your first one to the graveyard and then Rise from the Grave it.
I like that, because the Meteor Golem sort of makes its own grave when it impacts.
Yeah. You just have to push dirt on top to bury it. Yeah.
All right. So just a black card right now in terms of commitment for Max Mick. Could go anywhere from here. There's a Runic Armosaur.
Yeah, Druid of the Cowl here.
Oh, is there a Druid of the
nice
Cowl
pick
in there too? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, he's once you've also committed to a 7, you're definitely in the market for some mana acceleration. He likes that skilled animator as well.
Yeah, I think Skilled Animator and Druid of the Cowl are the best cards in the pack.
Yeah, well, he does take the Druid of the Cowl. Would not mind seeing some Elvish Rejuvenators as well.
And Druid of the Cowl is just so good in a format like this, because a 1/3 is, a brick wall against so many of these aggressive strategies.
We've
and
seen
then
Cavalry
it also
Drill Masters,
accelerates you.
Viashino Pyromancers. Well, there's the Rejuvenator. And what's he going to take? The 7-drop or the Accelerant?
I think you have to prioritize the Accelerant here. I would anyway. But I could
There's
also be
an
wrong.
Electrify.
Electrify being the best card in the pack. Angel of the Dawn, also a consideration here.
He does take the Accelerant. He goes with the Elvish Rejuvenator. Lets you jump from 3 to 4 mana there on turn 3. We've seen it all tournament long.
And I like that pick a lot. I think Elvish Rejuvenator also works really well in the black-green decks. It's a card that combos nicely with things like Blood Divination, which you can often get quite late.
Well, there is a Reclamation Sage and a Rocks Oracle in green for Max Mick to choose from.
Yeah, both great cards. Rocks Oracle has some really nice synergy with the 4 Power Matters cards. Reclamation Sage, it can just be an absolute blowout against certain opponents, but it's while its ceiling is incredibly high, its floor is also incredibly low.
Yeah, there are 3 mana 4/2s in this format. This one costs 5.
Yeah.
But it does let you draw a card when it enters the battlefield. And pairs very well with Colossal Majesty, which is a card that Max Mick is certainly going to be interested in taking a look at here. And he shuffles that to the front of the pack. Also looks at a Timber Gorge, looks at a Spark Tongue Dragon. He's thinking about that 2-headed giant. Which way is he going to go here? He's like, no, I want the dragon.
That's very interesting to me. So, kind of moving in on red here a bit after passing the Electrify.
Yeah, he did.
And whatnot.
He did pass an Electrify earlier. There's that Satyr Enchanter that we saw Mark Jacobson do so much with. Not something that Max Mick is going to make a move in on, though. Maybe that Macabre Waltz or that Abnormal Endurance. He does go with the Endurance. Also pretty exciting with the Meteor Golem.
Yes. Another card that works quite well with Meteor Golem.
And now Highland Game or Bog Stomper.
I mean, if he wants a top end, Bog Stomper is a fine vanilla body.
Yep. It gets that vanilla flavoring from all those herbs and spices it munches on in the bog. The herbivore, it says in the flavor text.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So many friendly animals.
Yeah, I don't understand how you could be a 6'5" herbivore. There's an Oaken form, another Spark Tongue Dragon, which Max already has one of. Let's see if he goes for the second one here.
Yeah, it's weird because he's having a similar issue where he's not sure where he is in the Jund colors.
Right, he could be red-black still.
Yes.
But he does have Druid of the Cowl and Elvish Rejuvenator, which are cards he really wants to use to get to the top end of his curve. So he has a very, whichever of those two colors he's playing, he's got a lot of interest in being in green.
Absolutely. And he just picked up a fairly late Centaur Courser, and the power and toughness on that is really nice.
Bog Orchard's a nice little gift there.
Yeah, the Foul Orchard there, means that he's probably going to be able to perhaps play 3 colors to be able to pick up a few more lands. And we know there's Timber Gorge and some other lands, floating around the table that could come pretty late.
Just a walking corpse, just curve filler, roster depth.
Yeah.
Stitcher Supplier could be an interesting card in a deck that's, playing Rise from the Grave, but not something he goes for there. He's not even thinking about it. Oh, very late Plummet.
Super late Plummet. That's a really nice sideboard card, a card that, I'm often willing to spend an earlier pick on.
We've seen people running that card main deck throughout the weekend.
Yeah, and I
both
have run
in
it main
draft
deck
and sealed.
I think it's a very defensible choice. This is one of those sets where it's, oh, yes, that's definitely my called shot for what I want him to open is Vivictus Asmati the Dyer.
It would be pretty nice here.
I think, he might rather have like a Lathless in this deck because he already has the pair of dragons to create
sure.
extra 5/5s.
Would not mind seeing a Spitfire.
I don't think he would mind a Spitfire either.
It'd be a pretty nice spot there with the 2 dragons. Spitflame, I should say. I apologize.
A Dragon's Horde could be quite good.
I've not had a chance to play with that card yet.
I've had it in 2 decks. In one deck, it was just a Manolith, basically. I had like 1 Spark Dog to go with it. And then I had another deck where I had 4 dragons, and it was absolutely absurd. It was a divination that also,
It's a Jund panorama being played before us.
He does need fixing if he wants all this to work out.
Yeah. All right, well, let's see what Pack 2 brings to Max Mick, who, despite being 16, is the most accomplished player in this Grand Prix Top 8. 3 Grand Prix Top 8s right now for Max Mick.
That's really impressive for a 16-year-old. Especially in this day and age when, all the old standbys are still dominating the game to some degree. So there's a Shock here, a Colossal Dreadmaw. Shock probably the best card, but
there's another Skyrider Patrol.
It does have him still on 3 colors, so he takes the Shock. I wouldn't be surprised if he just took Colossal Dreadmaw. I know it's a very early pickup of a card like that, but it's also
it gives him some payoff for those ramp spells he has too.
Yeah. He took the Rejuvenator early. He took the Druid of the Cowl early. He wants to make those cards matter.
He does take the Colossal Dreadmaw. A lot of times people think for some reason that's a boat, but look behind the sail and you can see exactly how big it is.
Yeah. It has some beautiful plumage going on. I really appreciate that Magic the Gathering made dinosaurs with feathers. I want historical accuracy in my cards.
Well, there's a Vigilant Baloth. Oh, boy. He likes that Timber Gorge, though. There's also an Electrify.
Yeah, it's easy to get 5s. He may have to abandon those Spark Tongue Dragons that he picked up already. Vigilant Baloth, just such a powerful card here. You know, we've talked about Timberhide Wolves and how good they are throughout the weekend. Here, we got an extra point of power and Vigilance for the same casting cost, essentially, just an extra green mana instead of a colorless.
All right.
This is Green's answer to, Herald of Faith or Vampire Sovereign, the great uncommon 5-drop.
Gift of Paradise, very aptly named, but there's a Strangling Spores. There's a Rupture Spire.
Yeah, and Strangling Spore is an instant speed removal spell in a format where, that's really at a premium. You can take advantage of people.
Also a card I love in green-black because how many times do you end up putting your opponent in a position where they need to double block your Vigilant Baloth or your Thornhide Wolves? You know what I mean? You just get them with a removal spell.
Yeah, just a great card. He actually chose, however, Gift of Paradise.
Ooh. So
that's kind of crazy to me.
That's his third mana accelerant. Definitely leaning very heavily on that Meteor Golem. And realizing he might be in a position where he's just not able to keep things down to 2 colors.
And I mean, he does have quite a bit of fat also, so he may just be thinking to himself, okay, I can unlock this really expensive stuff that I have, these Spark Tongue Dragons, by taking this Gift of Paradise. I can, I can even Bog Stomp some folks. I could, play my Colossal Dreadmaw, my Vigilant Baloth.
Takes a Gargoyle Sentinel here. There's Spark Tongue Dragon number 3. But he might be interested in Dragon Egg number 1.
Yeah, Spark Tongue Dragon. Nice card because a 3/3 flyer for 5 is perfectly defensible. Then throw in the fact that when you get to 8 mana, it starts shooting for 3.
Yeah, he does take his 3rd copy of the Flying Flame Tongue there. Yeah, it does a little less damage. Costs a lot more mana, but definitely evocative of the Flame Tongue Kavu. Well, there's a Sure Strike. There's a Bogart Brute, a card that has we've seen do a lot of work this weekend. Runic Armasaur, again, a really nice, gives him a little bit of early game and it lets him gum up the ground a little and not get overwhelmed by some of the more tempo-y decks.
Yeah, it's just got a real nice butt,
Yeah. 2/5.
Only costs 3. So I think he's very much in the market for that. Sure Strike, a card that we've seen be really impressive all weekend. Not very exciting in his deck, though. He's playing a lot of expensive things that he wants to tap out for. It makes it hard to, already have a presence on the table and use a card like that.
But he does take the Sure Strike over the Anaki Ogre there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely the best card in the pack. I just think this is a deck where it would underperform.
Again, though, another card like the Strangling Spore is really good if you can get your opponent in a position where they need to double block your creature just to get back to parity. All right, just a 2/2 there again. Greenwood Sentinel, more Vigilance.
And Sure Strike does work quite nicely with Colossal Dreadmaw.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's tramply-ness.
What are you thinking about for Pack 3? You still thinking about Vivictus Asmati? Or do you have to mix it up? There's a Titanic Growth.
I think he'd much rather. I think he would much rather have Dragon Sword.
Okay.
Right now, he's got all these Spark Tongue Dragons. He wants to, find a way to accelerate into them and create more card advantage in the late game. He could simply be green-red at this point. I think he's taking this Gorge.
Timber Gorge or Manolith. He already has 3 mana accelerants. Does he want a 4th? Or does he just want the fixing? He goes with the fixing here.
And I like that pick a lot. I think these the lands in the set are undervalued.
Well, there's a Highland Game and a Rupture Spire. Again, another choice. He's going to take the Rupture Spire.
And 2s for a deck like this are pretty replaceable. That 2/2 Vigilance that he already picked up
just
there.
Just as fine as the Highland Game is.
Probably even a little better.
He's going to take the Heroic Reinforcements. Probably not looking to play that card, but let's get that out of there.
That card kills people.
Yeah, he's like, I really want to stabilize against that deck, and this makes it pretty difficult to do so. Rare Drafts and Amulet there with 2 cards left in the pack.
The thing about the Heroic Reinforcements is if it's in the pack this late, that means nobody at the table is red-white.
Right. Child of Night is the pick there with 1 card left to go in the pack. And there we get an island. And then let's see what Max Mick is working with here as he sorts through at the end of pack 2. So green-red, maybe a little black splash here for Rise from the Grave. He's got, the Foul Orchard. He's got the Gift of Paradise to fix his mana there. He likes that Runic Armasaur. He's got a ton of cards. There you get a look at the original Vivictus Asmati. Just a mere 8 mana.
I prefer the Chronicles version.
With a tax
Thank you very
of
much.
3 mana during your upkeep.
I think the paleness of that drawing works much better with a white border. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That is not one of the... there's a lot of older Magic art that I really love.
Yeah.
Vivictus Asmati, possibly not one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah, when it was drawn, perhaps they weren't sure if they were drawing a fish monster, some type of eel maybe. Just a real close-up of, they were thinking about lizards and fish and all sorts of stuff at the same time. Didn't put wings on it. But we knew it was a dragon because it said it in a text box there.
An Elder Dragon. All right. 1 pack left to go for a Vivictus Asmati for Max Mick.
He'd also just love, a Lightning Strike.
Lightning Strike, Spit Flame we've talked about.
Oh, yeah, that would be incredible. Spit Flame is just so good.
He's had shots at 2 Electrifies, but has not necessarily been interested either time, took other cards over them. So let's see what this is going to be. Would not mind seeing some any kind of removal. Rabid Bite would be pretty good in his deck.
Yeah.
Dryad Greenseeker. You see Paul Rietzel just wanting to draw
giving
some
us
cards.
these
It's so
underhand
uncharacteristic.
pitches.
So uncharacteristic of Paul attack with everything Rietzel that he would want to draw extra cards.
A Vigilant Baloth there. Yeah, a real nice one for him again. Another very good 5. He is a little top-heavy at this point, though.
Yeah, you see a Volley Veteran.
Yeah, Volley Veteran also a really strong card.
He's got that Cinder Barons again. More mana fixing, but not something he's going to first pick here.
And he's looking at the Skyscanner now, perhaps just because of the lower casting cost.
Yeah,
I still like the Vigilant Baloth. I just think the power level's there. But
Max has played with Wayne, and maybe you don't have a lot of synergy with those. He's also thinking about the Dark Dweller Oracle. Just he's gonna. Now he's like, I'm here for the fatties.
Yeah. That's a beautiful, beautiful animal. You don't want to let that guy go.
So, and there we see the beginning of some of those black removal spells that were traveling downstream. You saw the Lich's Caress in that pack. Yeah. We wonder where all of that premium black removal ended up at the table. We know it did not end up with Richard Tan. Well, there's a Strangling Spores.
Yeah, and I can, say that he's going to be pretty happy to have picked up either the Strangling Spores or the Goblin Instigator here. I guess Goblin Instigator, pretty good at gumming up the ground against more aggressive decks.
Yeah, I think that's what he was thinking about with the Dweller, right? Like, he was like, I just want some kind of early game here so I don't just get run over. right? I want to just keep those Viashino Pyromancers back
Yeah.
for a couple turns. And he does take the Goblin Instigator.
I think that he's definitely happy about having picked up that extra Vigilant Baloth, even though he has such a glut at 5 mana. Remember, like he did take an Elvish Rejuvenator very high. He took a Gift of Paradise over other playables. He's attempting to ramp on 3 mana into
there's a
good
shock.
cards.
There's also a Colossal Dreadmaw in the pack. And is he...
I think now he wants the shock.
In the
Earlier on in
market?
the draft, he actually took a Colossal Dreadmaw over a shock in pack 1, I believe.
All right, well, this time he goes with the shock. Again, great way to keep those Viashino Pyromancers at bay is to kill them.
Yeah, the fact that shock is an instant and that it only costs 1 means that a lot of the time it's easy to pick up 2-for-1s in combat against opponents. Just a really, really strong card.
We talk a lot about that idea of double spelling. Being able to play 2 spells in one turn, play maybe a spell on your turn, leave some mana open, and then, have that ability to sneak that shock through. And, how about a Declare Dominance?
We declare dominance? Is that
what
there?
it is? Oh, no. Nope, sorry.
Oh, okay. I would be like, oh, yes. Put that my gorilla in the pile of cards.
There's a Giant Spider instead.
Yeah, and Max Mick, a deck that is quite soft to flyers right now. Giant Spider, a nice pickup for him there.
Goes all the way back to Alpha. Long before Vivian Reed was even a glimmer in the creative team's eye.
Max may want to main deck the Plummet that he picked up earlier, based on
There's
what
a
he has
Centaur
here.
Courser. How do you feel about a Fiery Finish in this deck?
I think he already has too much at the top end. I think once he gets to that point, everything he's playing is going to be bigger than his opponent's stuff for the most part. He may just want it to beat big flyers, though. Like if his opponent plays a Dragon or a Herald of Faith, a Fiery Finish is a card that could definitely help him here.
Yeah, he's thinking a little bit more about his early game, about getting out onto the board and being able to hold things down until the Vigilant Baloths show up, and Centaur Courser does that job for him very nicely.
Yeah, in a world of 2/3s and 2/2s, Centaur Courser is quite nice.
There's a Foul Orchard, Daggerback Basilisk.
And I don't think he's starved for 3s at this point. He doesn't have any Rabid Bites. Daggerback Basilisk, probably not good enough to take over that dual end.
Yeah. All right, Max Mick. Got a Grand Prix top 8 earlier this year in Las Vegas playing Modern.
Now here he is, playing
Limited.
Core Set Limited.
There's a Viashino
Showing off his,
Pyromancer. Another Rupture Spire. His mana could be perfect, but he's going to take that Viashino Pyromancer.
He wants to make sure that if he does play against these aggressive decks, even if he doesn't play these 2s that he's picked up in the main deck, that he's able to sideboard to be a little bit lower to the ground so he can trade off before he puts down all of his fatties.
Oh,
Ooh.
all right. Well, there was a Declare Dominance. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. That's an angry
He's like,
gorilla.
"Oh, I like this card.
Yeah. Suddenly that Daggerback Basilisk that he passed looks a little better. That's okay, though.
I think he might
Card's
already
still
have
insane.
one of those. Yeah,
He
the
does,
card's
yeah,
just
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, he's very, this is the type of deck that is very capable of having both players just kind of pump the brakes and try to get wider than the other player, try to find a way around, try to wait out some removal spells, and Declare Dominance just utterly demolishes that plan. So he gets the Dark Dweller Oracle that he was looking at earlier.
Yeah, a pretty surprising pick, I think, taking that over the Cinder Barons. But
I think he feels like his mana is great at this point.
his mana is great, but it could always be better, right?
Yeah. Talons of Wildwood, pretty nice on a Vigilant Baloth.
Yes.
6/6 Vigilant Trample is terrific, and there's very little card disadvantage built into the Talons of Wildwood. You can always just get that back and put it on the next creature.
Already has a pump spell. Doubt he wants to play more than one here.
Super impressed with Talons of Wildwood. A card I think I dismissed out of hand on my first perusal of the set, but it's performed way over expectations for me. All right, now we're just winding down here.
Yeah. That's a rest he picked up. Could be a good sideboard
in
card.
Jundland.
John's a great place.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
liked John.
John does won a lot of people a lot of games of Magic. And he's got choose. I look at this 2 cards. He's like, which one do I want? Smelt or Mind Rot. I kind of like Mind Rot there, but I mean, Smelt also a very good sideboard card.
I mean, he has a Rise from the Grave and all those fatties too. He might be hoping somebody Mind Rots him. They uses their turn 3 to do that instead of building out their board, so they're not killing him fast.
So what do you think of? How do you like Max's deck?
I think it's better than Richard's deck. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
It's very expensive if he ends up playing against the more aggressive strategies. He could potentially get run over, but he's picked up enough 2s where he can make that work.
Is this a deck that can win the GP?
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. We saw Richard Tan. We saw Max Mick. Now we're going to get a chance to watch them play. Don't go anywhere. We get a couple brief messages, and then we will be underway with the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Sacramento.